Members of an organised crime group operating across Rochdale and Greater Manchester have been jailed today for collective 49 years and 2 months following a serious assault which took place on the 5th of October 2021. Abbas Mushtaq, who's 29 of Rochdale, received 16 years and 3 months in prison after pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit GBH, violent disorder and possession with intent to supply. Taylor Snape, who's 21 of Rochdale, received 8 years and 9 months in prison after pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit GBH. Jake Horrocks, who's 21 from Castleton, received 11 years in prison after being found guilty of conspiracy to commit GBH. And Nasir Kazmi, who's 29 of Milnrow, received 13 years in prison after being found guilty of conspiracy to commit GBH. There were 3 other men who were found not guilty during the process of the trial. So it's believed on the evening of Tuesday, the 5th of October 2021, the victim was spotted driving his car through the streets of Rochdale. Within minutes of the sighting, the members of the gang assembled with weapons, got into their stolen cars and began to track the victim down. Once they found him, they began to pursue him at high speeds through the streets of Faylinge and Shawclough in Rochdale. The victim's car was rammed from behind, causing it to flip multiple times. The victim then tried to escape from his severely damaged car, but he was heavily outnumbered and set upon by the gang. The gang actually proceeded to conduct a sustained attack using all weapons they had at their disposal, which included the use of ammonia, machete, combat knives, axes, and at one point a chainsaw was started up and brandished. After the attack, the gang fled the scene in their stolen vehicles, and one of the vehicles stopped in a secluded area on Syke Road in Rochdale, where the occupants were captured on CCTV, hiding their weapons in a field behind a wall. The group appeared to reenact the attack amongst themselves. The stolen vehicles were then abandoned by the suspects, which were later recovered by the police. The following day, officers recovered the discarded weapons from Syke Road, where the gang had been spotted the previous evening. Later that day, 2 vehicles were again captured on CCTV, going back to Syke Road in an attempt to recover the discarded weapons, but to no avail, as these were now in the possession of Greater Manchester Police. The victim received life-threatening injuries from this attack, some of which he is still receiving medical treatment for, including significant scarring and being blinded in one eye from the use of ammonia. These convictions are part of a lengthy investigation by Greater Manchester Police, which has already seen a number of people jailed with regards to this gang, drug dealing, and the beef between a number of gangs. So the court heard that it was a tit-for-tat turf war which exploded in violence. The jury heard that the victim in this case, thought to be a street-level dealer, had been spotted driving through Rochdale, and as I said, this gang jumped in 2 stolen Nissan 4x4 vehicles. They rammed the vehicle, the car flipped. The prosecutor said the ambush and attack was planned and executed by his assailants with ruthless efficiency. He said, "We say the ferocity of this attack indicates an intention to kill him, and if not at the very least, to cause him serious harm. Having beaten and hacked his body, they left him there for dead or close to dying. At no stage did any of the assailants appear to desist or seek to persuade others to do so. What appears to have persuaded them to leave the scene was the public nature of their attack. They had a window of opportunity and they used it with ruthless efficiency." So the victim was actually assisted by members of the public and an off-duty police officer who witnessed the attack before emergency services arrived. They said they were having difficulty in holding his face together, such was the severity of his injuries. A number of his teeth were also knocked out, and a scan later showed that a tooth was in his stomach. He had suffered a heart attack, but he was resuscitated. When he was given his cross-examination, the victim said the attack was more shocking and traumatic, saying it was more than a savage beating. They tried to kill me. Police had later recovered a quantity of drugs from the Volkswagen the victim was driving. So the court heard that the victim was an affiliate of a drugs gang which was run by a man who goes by the name of Owais Ali. He had beef with the Mushtaq brothers, and the Mushtaq brothers allegedly rammed a Volvo S90 which was being driven by the victim in this case in Rochdale. The jurors heard that the brothers, who were armed with machetes, axes, bricks and baseball bats, then surrounded the car and smashed it up. The prosecutor said the ferocity of the prolonged and determined attack was such that a witness initially called 999, saying that they had heard gunshots and the Volvo that the victim was driving had been written off. In the 13 months that followed, this tit-for-tat reprisal took place, which included arson attacks on cars and bricks thrown through windows of families' homes. And then on May the 22nd, 2021, two masked men armed with machetes attacked Abbas Mushtaq and his mother in their home. So with regards to that incident, it was heard that Mr. Mushtaq was at home with his parents, brothers and sisters, and at around 11 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. One of Mr. Mushtaq's sisters answered, and there was a woman standing there who began accusing the Mushtaq family of being responsible for the car being torched and for her brother being in hospital. Mr. Mushtaq's sister felt a push to her back and saw two males run up the house and up the stairs. One of the men had a sword in his hand and he raised it up in front of him. Abbas Mushtaq was in the bedroom with his two brothers when he heard some footsteps. He opened the door to see a big male wearing a black balaclava with a machete, which was said to be Owais Ali, and another male armed with a sword. All Mr. Mushtaq could do was put his arms in front of his face. He was slashed multiple times with both weapons as he tried to push the males backwards, the court heard. The prosecutor in this case said he could hear his sister screaming and see the blood everywhere. Mr. Mushtaq's mother ran upstairs and tried to grab the sword, but the attacker snatched it back, causing a wound to her as well. She continued to try to defend her son, grabbing the attacker's wrist and leaving the sword stuck in a wall. The male then took the sword out of the wall and ran out of the house, and one of the males was heard saying, "Yo, Aziz, let's go." Having suffered multiple slash wounds to his hands, face and upper body, Mr. Mushtaq lost consciousness. The prosecutor said, suffice to say, it was chaotic and a terrifying scene. Mr. Mushtaq was rushed to hospital in a critical condition where he spent the next 10 days undergoing treatment. His injuries included cuts that went to the bone and severed tendons in his hands. Fortunately, doctors were able to treat the wounds and he is expected to make virtually a full recovery in the long term. The court heard that progress has been slow ever, and more than a year after the attack, he remains unable to care for himself. But as we know now, he's been jailed for retaliation attacks with regards to this tit-for-tat warfare. So Mr. Owais was actually jailed for around 6 years. Detective Sergeant Gabe Gibson of Greater Manchester Police Rochdale Challenger Team said, following the sentencing, this was a premeditated attack that took place in a residential area with members of the public subjected to this gang's brazen criminality and disorder. Those convicted were armed with axes, combat knives, machetes and even a chainsaw. This array of weapons and level of violence is certainly not the norm in Rochdale, and I would like to reassure the community that Greater Manchester Police is committed to tackling organised crime. The sentence handed down reflects the gravity of the offence of Tuesday, 5th of October 2021, and will serve as a reminder to any other individuals or gangs that such serious criminality will be punished. The victim is very lucky to be alive, and if it weren't for the quick administering of first aid from local residents, including an off-duty police officer, the outcome may have been worse. The scene and level of injuries that members of the public faced with will no doubt have left a lasting impact on their lives, and I would like to thank each and every one of them for their timely intervention. Intel from members of the public continuously helps with our investigation, no matter how small the information may seem. In this instance, information provided by the public led to us making a number of positive arrests within 36 hours of the attack. So guys, this is a new story coming from the Northwest. Absolute madness. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.